ahead and get started. So thank you. This is the workshop February 1st, 2022. Board of County Commissioners. Roger, you're going to start us off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, this project, Sanibel Causeway Island improvements, we had some conversation with you. Now it's been about a year ago or so, and there's been a lot of work done since. And today we'd like to talk with you about the improvements that we would like your concurrence on. So I'll just turn it over to Chris Brady to get us started, please. Chris.
Thank you, Roger. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Just want to be able to provide you our latest update as it relates to the Sanibel Causeway Island improvements. We do have a number of slides that we're going to go through, but we also brought the larger maps, and we also have some maps on the back that you can look at, but we'll also show you a tool that is available, will be available to the public to look more closely at the preliminary plan designs that we have, as well as have a survey that folks will be able to respond to. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jesse Lavender.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. We're going to talk to you briefly about the Causeway Island project. I know we went over this in your briefings recently in the last week and a half. But as with most of our workshops and work sessions, we're going to be asking a question of you. And that question is, would you like to see traditional beach amenities that are consistent with other county beach parks such as Lynn Hall, Bowditch, Bonita Beach? These amenities include pavilions, picnic areas, restrooms, and designated parking. I'd like to go over a brief timeline of how we got to where we are today. Back in 2014, an STA was issued to develop the initial studies for Island B, and that was just Island B for erosion and roadway runoff concerns that we'd had over the years. Back in February of 2017, the board approved $1.85 million in tourist development taxes for the project. In July of 2020, the state, through the legislative appropriation process, earmarked $4.25 to be overseen by the Department of Transportation for the state to Lee County for this project. In November of 2020, the board approved $2.4 million to make our match whole and even with what the state gave us, which was 4.25. And then in December of 2020, we expanded the scope of the project to include the additional island as well as upland amenities for both islands. One item of note that I really want to stress on is the yellow tab at the bottom of the PowerPoint. We need to complete this project and the money that is earmarked from the state by June 30th of 2024. It's very hard to get an amendment from what I'm told from the state to allow an extension to the project. So I'm really hoping that we can get a consensus today and move forward with the project. A little history on what's being done right now. Again, up to this point, it's mainly been erosion, remediation over the years. If you look at the two photos here, both are park staff taking these photos. The top photo was about a 48-hour period back in 2018 that almost wiped out, portions of the road. Luckily, with coordination with park staff and DOT staff, we were able to get this fixed in about 48 hours. And if you go out there today, you'll see, you can gladly walk where all this had been washed away. Same with the bottom photo. But phase one really started in 2016. It was focused on Island B. And again, it was to remedy erosion caused from road runoff as well as from the waves, the full moon tides, what have you.
Jesse, if we could have a question, Commissioner Wayne.
Jess, can you do me a favor? Can you go back one slide? Do you have a revised projection on what this project may run as far as dollars and cents?
Again, right now, we're at a preliminary stage. That's why we're talking about it right now. I do not, have to get a little bit further along to get that cost analysis. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. Phase 2, as I mentioned, would create and help fix some of the roadway runoff issues by creating additional water retention areas. There are certain public safety issues with each island that have occurred over the years. We'll be looking to help mitigate that, as well as shoreline erosion. And I can't stress enough, we have one island with no restrooms on it, and that has been a concern over the many, many years that we've been doing this. Would like to point out, just on the photos here, designated, not designated parking, that's currently the situation out there. You can park wherever you want. We have about 3 to 5 issues where we need to get a tow truck or something happens each month. And then I know there's been some questions on what exactly is designated parking and what are we talking about. The nature of this project is to really have shell pervious parking, and a couple examples of how we do that now are the below 2 pictures. One is with signage. This is from Boca Grande. I forget what beach access this is, but we have parallel parking on this side, do not park over here. Or to the right is Bonita Beach, access 7, I believe, where we have parking bumpers and people, park there. So the preliminary plans that you see before you today, and Chris is going to go over the GIS tool that will help show those not able to make it or tune in today online, how it is now compared to what we're preliminary have concepts of. So back in May 2021, we took every public input from 2015, gave it to our consultant, and that's what you have before you today, is just a preliminary plan with all that input since 2015. In August, I met with City of Sanibel staff to go over the project, hear some of their input. Again, in August, shortly after I met with Sanibel, we conducted a public meeting at the Waxahachie Recreation Center. I believe it was between 40 and 50 people showed up. And then in October, I did a virtual presentation to the Sanibel Chamber of Commerce. And takeaways from those public input sessions: additional restrooms, enhanced non-motorized watercraft landings and launching, native landscaping, outdoor showers, designated parking, more shade, whether that's trees or shelters, and fish cleaning stations, and there was a couple inquiries for paid parking. And now I'm going to turn it over to Chris for a glimpse of our, there we go. Glimpse of our GIS tool that we.
Again, commissioners, I wanted to take an opportunity to, before we move into this story map here that we've created, to just take a moment to kind of focus on one of the things that we're specifically looking for from you today, and that's to focus on the designated parking. There's 3 key areas that we're presenting to you. One, we want to make sure you understand that the money that we received from the state, it was actually a grant through FDOT, and part of the requirements of that grant was to take a look at traffic control and stability of the road system in there. So one of the stipulations that we have for the grant is that we do put those traffic flows, entrance and exits, to make that a safer place. The second thing, and Jesse did talk about it, was roadway erosion. From those pictures, you could see that there is a significant concern from roadway erosion. These are preliminary designs that we are presenting to you today,
but part of our contractor's design of the preliminary plans was using those designated parking to help with that roadway overflow of water, so that also helps to preserve the erosion of our beaches there. And the third thing, again, that Jesse had mentioned was public safety. We have a lot of families who utilize those beaches there. And so by providing designated parking and not and getting away from people just being able to park, it does provide a better level of public safety, not only for the families and the folks who are enjoying the beach, but also for those other cars. And as you could see from some of the pictures that Jesse presented, we do on a regular basis have cars that get stuck at the shoreline that have to be removed by tow trucks. So we wanted to make sure I took a moment to really kind of focus specifically on designated parking and the reasons that we're looking for that direction from you today. We need consensus on that in order for us to move through the next phases. And Jesse will take a little bit more time later on in the presentation to talk about next steps. So what we're going to be launching today is a GIS tool. It's a story map that we will have on our website. We'll have it on our homepage, and we'll also have a link to it on our Parks and Recreation page. But it's a tool that allows folks to go in and get a little bit more information. So as you can see, there's a pop-up that comes in that gives you just a very basic overview of the project. And then you can see two maps. This map over here is showing you what the existing Causeway Islands look like, and the work that's already being done. So as you move the map, each side, the conceptual side that is over here, also zooms in and moves with you. So you can see what the existing plans are, and then you can see what the preliminary conceptual improvements are. So as we zone into this, you can see where the current T-growing project is right now. You can see where the existing roadway is, and you can start to see where there is water retention areas, as well as some native landscaping that is going to go in. And these smaller yellow boxes here represent the proposed or preliminary designated parking areas. So it gives people an opportunity to really see, what is existing right now and what is in the concept phase. So we have a legend over here. As you go through the tabs up at the top, if you click on the survey, we've added a survey for citizens to be able to give additional input through a public survey. So they have the opportunity to go through and read through, provide information that they are interested in seeing. And we've also added a comment box right here so that people are able to put any additional comments or suggestions that they would like to add in that area there. And that survey will be open today, and we'll keep that survey open for pretty much the length of the project, so we can continue to get that feedback. In our concept plans, which are the concept plans that we have over here that are set up on the bar, it's going to take probably a second to load. All of the preliminary conceptual plans have been loaded into the tool, so anybody who is interested to looking more specifically into those concept plans, they're all right here for citizens to see. We also have timeline information. Some of that we went over with you today, but this is a more in-depth, detailed timeline of everything that has happened. And then this over the app information is just a direction so that folks can see how to utilize this tool. So we are excited about launching this. This is the first time that we've been able to put something like this together for a Parks and Recreation project. We believe that we're going to get additional information for seasonal residents who are not always here. As this project moves along, it allows them just another opportunity to be engaged in this project. So I'm going to turn this back over to Jesse to finish up his slides. Thank you.
Okay. So next steps, right now, these are a few photos from early January through mid-January of the construction of the T-groins. If you remember from your briefings this week and last week, this is underway. We anticipate to finish this by this summer. The main part of this, through the studies that we've done since 2016, is these T-groins will catch and hold the sand in place so that we don't have to keep spreading and getting more fill from other areas of the state to replenish and take away those escarpments that you saw in the earlier slide. As of right now, and I want you to just realize we had to start somewhere. So our consultant drew, what he thought was a good layout for parking, designated parking areas, and this is what he came up with. This can change either way, but for right now, we had to have a starting point, and in the preliminary plans before you, we have 234 parking spaces, 4 RV spaces, and then on Island B, 214 standard parking spaces with no RV parking. But again, this is very preliminary. I know there's been some questions about that, and we can fine tune that. The goal here today was to see if the board wanted those traditional beach amenities encompassing public safety, having some designated areas for parking, and being able to really get to that 30% design after the direction of the board today.
Hey, Jesse, real quick, Jesse, the RV spaces, are those overnight spaces or are those just for the day?
Those would just be for the day. I think as you've seen from Dave Loveland and the man sheds and things like that, we've evolved to where more RVs are easily accessible, and they'll come up for the day and open their awnings, sit right out there and enjoy their day, and they can, if it rains, they can escape and get in their RV. So,
Great. Any other questions for Jesse? Commissioner Mann?
Jesse, great presentation. Thank you, and Chris, for the briefing. I mean, as someone that probably understands the islands as best as anybody, I can't tell you I'm 100% in favor of designated parking. I've witnessed, having traveled over the causeway many times, just the safety hazard that exists there. Without having structure for parking, unfortunately, it becomes a free-for-all. I've watched and witnessed, certainly as the mayor of Sanibel, the number of phone calls we got, the different confrontations that went on there, because again, it becomes a free-for-all, unfortunately, and it really gets to a situation that's not safe. As far as, having structured parking, that makes sense. The amenities that are consistent with some of the beaches and even some of the beaches that we have on Sanibel were really consistent. Shell type, that the groins are certainly another feature we used in Sanibel. So you're spot on with everything that you're articulating. Of all the commissioners, I've probably traveled over the causeway. I don't even want to think in the last 14 years how many times. And literally had someone pull out in front of me. I almost slammed on the brakes. I mean, it is definitely a situation that the popularity has gotten to the point where people have kind of lost some civility in trying to get there and blocking people in, and people feel compelled to go closer to the water. I've witnessed tow trucks. I've seen almost anything you could imagine that would exist. So I love your structure. I'm 100% behind it.
Thank you. Commissioner Mann?
Several thousand years ago, when the Indians got here, there's always been a demand for public utilization of this area, even long before we put the parkway in there. It was great for fishing, great for all types of recreational use, and I think we certainly all support the continual utilization and additional utilization to the extent we can do it without wrecking it. Now, but I'm not clear here as to what we just approved. Last time we approved something and you said we needed to start somewhere, we're off and running. but it's very preliminary, you said. Would you remind me, what did we approve and what are we preliminarily into?
So
And so what is the next step now that you're looking for our push?
yes, sir. So you previously approved the erosion control, both design and construction.
Okay, nobody could be against that.
Right, correct.
But we had some pushback on some of what we were doing.
Right.
We got the phone calls.
So the board approved expanding this project to a separate island. So instead of it just being the second island, the island closest to Sanibel and just the erosion, we expanded this project to both islands with amenities as well as erosion control structures on the first island, which is closest to Punta Rassa. So we then got our consultant, took all the input we've had from 2015, from the public, from commissioners, who have you, and came up with these preliminary designs. So that's where we are today. We are asking the board, do you like these traditional beach-like amenities that are consistent with our other beach parks?
But are we actually constructing parking, the 200 parking spots on both islands right now?
That's the direction they're looking for. Is that,
But it's very preliminary, and he's asking, you want us to,
Well,
do we want structured parking? Do we want it to be beach amenities? Those are the questions today.
okay, I'm not clear on what the two of those things look like.
Beach amenities, you know, is certainly consistent with the beach.
Nothing paved, everything is,
Correct. So what we're trying to do is obviously help the environment too. Many times what you'll have is shell rocks will be much better as far as any type of leakage or whatever. You don't have it run off on asphalt. It's just, everything about it is much more consistent with what we've done and much more friendly to the environment. So that's the amenity part.
absent any comments from us to the contrary, you're going to continue on this preliminary direction and
Correct.
end up with 200 parking spots and 4 RV spots.
I think the first part is amenities. The second part is, do we believe that structured design parking makes sense? They're going to figure out how many spots they can get, but as a, you know, somebody that was a mayor, now a commissioner, I think it's essential with the usage that we have structured parking. It just is not really a very safe environment the way it is today. It's being overly utilized, in my opinion.
Mr. Mann, they got, some of the slides show where the parking's kind of hard to see in the small scale, the little squares, but, or you can look on the, staff has the bigger maps here for us. We have to go in the middle to see it, but it shows where, initially where the parking could be, either parallel parking or straight in parking, based upon the width of the island. It shows some, I don't know if Jesse could zoom in there or not, or, so you could,
So-
kind of hard to see, like the little squares there, it's kind of hard to see them. They're kind of turned in right there. Those are all parking spots right there. So it'd be areas where the people could park on their own self-accord park, but then it won't be marked because it'll be shell, but it won't be lines on the pavement or anything. But they'll be able to pull in car spaces and park there.
There's going to be some type of design to have where spot A is and spot B is. The issue currently, Commissioner, is it's sand-like material and everyone just parks wherever they want to with no consideration for anyone. And when there's not enough parking, you ask your neighbor to move closer to the shore. And
So you want us to continue doing exactly what he's doing, which would avoid
correct.
that.
You know,
That you're
create a
describing.
safer environment.
Okay.
Create the amenities that are consistent in Lee County. Have the architects obviously determine how many structured parking we can have. To have some more Lee, it'll help safety. We'll have a much better structure than it is
Okay,
currently right now.
parking, you're okay with, look, you're my godfather from the island, or used to was from the islands. I figure you still know what you're talking about over there. And I have no issues at all as far as it provides for greater utilization until we screw it up by overutilization.
Correct.
But now what about the bathrooms? Is that a question still for us, or have we locked down the additional bathrooms? Or do we have to say yes twice?
I believe that's a traditional beach amenity, and if you're okay with designated parking, that goes along with that, so we
I would
would
certainly
continue.
advocate.
My head is going up and
We
down.
have bathrooms at the beaches, you know, we're not giving people alternatives, so.
Well, there are those, and some of them live in your district, that would suggest that the bathrooms mean we're going to be dragging more and more people from, my lord, they're coming from Fort Lauderdale to be on our island and to mess up and bring more traffic. People don't want them.
They're there now, okay? There's no doubt about it.
I'm not debating with you.
No,
You
but-
interrupted me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I just want to let you know I'm on your side. I think the bathrooms are a good idea.
So do I.
I'm still in favor of them. If I was before, I still am.
Thank you, sir.
Great, okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Hammond?
I'll just kind of give my input real quick. So looking at the question that we're asked by staff today is, do you want to see traditional beach amenities on these islands? And my answer to that is yes. So as my experience going out to these islands is as a resident, as a father, with my kids, enjoying the islands for a sunset or even more than that, like a half day out at the beach. I can tell you the pavilions would be a wonderful, welcome addition. The picnic areas, absolutely. The restrooms, yes. When you have he's now 5, but when you have a 3-year-old or whatever, who has to go to the bathroom like at all the most inopportune times, to have to go from one island to the next island just to find the closest bathroom is the biggest pain in the butt. So yeah, the extra restrooms are definitely a welcomed addition. The designated parking, I can tell you as a parent, my experience was that my wife and I, when we've been out there, have had to just keep kind of like a razor sharp focus on the kids and where they're at all times, because people are just driving all over the place on those 2 islands. And you just never know when somebody's going to kind of go. You might think you're as close to the water as you can get, and somebody might try and get even closer and drive right over where your kids are playing. And so I think the fact that we would have designated parking areas and a more defined flow of how the traffic should go in and out and where they should go to get to those parking spots is going to make it safer, especially for families that have children out there. Look, part of going to the beach is hopefully relaxing, and it's pretty hard to relax when you've got to keep your eye, that closely to make sure your kid's not going to get hit by a car. So I like the designated parking. Now, the last item, paid parking, that's where I'm not. I'm not there yet. I don't think I don't support the idea of doing paid parking. This has always been one of those places where people could go and park for free. I think many of the residents who would go there and park there are going to say, well, I just paid $6 to go through the toll booth to get here. They're going to think that was part of what they paid to be able to use these spots. And so I'm not supportive of the paid parking, but the amenities, the designated parking, all the other things that we talked about today, I think we've got a pretty good plan laid out. And I'll tell you what I really like about where you guys are going from here. I like the website that you've created and the fact that you're putting it out there so that we can get feedback from the community. And I hope we're going to do a real social media push and everything to give people a chance to fill out that survey, to look at the plans, and to give us their feedback on it too. So thank you for that and thinking of that.
I just want to add, I totally agree with the plan. The bathrooms, the picnic areas, pavilions, designated parking, I'm okay with that. The paid parking is the only thing I didn't agree with when it comes up in the future, because kind of like Commissioner Hammond said, you take a family of 4 on a Sunday afternoon, going to the beach, they pay $6 to go across the bridge. I know it's a toll, it's a separate fee, but they're going to pay per hour to park at a public beach they already paid for as taxpayers. As a conservative, I just couldn't support charging people to pay to park they already paid for twice. Some of the families are strapped right now. If you want to take a family of 4 out and you go to the beach, you're going to spend $20 to park for 4 hours, whatever the fee may be. I just couldn't support that. But I definitely support the amenities. The clean restrooms would be great. I look forward to talking about how we're going to keep those up too, as far as the cleaning of the restrooms in the area. So it looks good otherwise. Mr. Zindali?
I think my thoughts are along the lines, I didn't cross this many times as Kevin has, but when I lived up in Tampa, the causeways between Pinellas and Hillsborough County was very similar. And so I like amenities that are consistent so that people aren't playing one against the other. Well, let's not go there because it doesn't have a restroom. Let's not go there. I think when we they know what to expect. There's a consistency. I think it helps everybody plan accordingly and doesn't overburden something. The parking, I like. I think the fact that we're not paving, so we're not doing runoff into the water makes a lot of sense. We've seen it elsewhere in some of our other communities, and it works very well. So I do, as Commissioner Rowan said, the causeways up in Pinellas and Hillsborough County can be out of control for a variety of different reasons. You know, people trying to push too close, they park up, they take all the stuff out, precludes other people. It's a safety issue. The other thing is they launch, you know, watercraft vehicles there, and that really exacerbates the problem. So I think by my understanding, we're not going to be able to launch from here. Is that correct?
Motorized vessels are not
Right,
permitted
right.
to launch from.
Because that in itself becomes a safety issue. So, you know, consistency of amenities, yes. The parking, yes. Just want to make sure from a safety perspective, we weren't getting involved with the, you know, the motorized vehicles and so on and so forth for a variety of different reasons. One is the noise drives me crazy. But they're great, they're a lot of fun. I agree on the paid. I think that we've done a lot to help mitigate the cost of living right now, and I think that asking people to pay right now, the beach is that place you can go, have some fun, and it should be amenities you get for your tax dollars. So thank you for the work that's been put together. Pictures always lay it out, you know, much easier and so on and so forth. So I think it's a work in progress. I'm sure it'll continue to change. But the other question I have, though, is between the two islands, you have 450 spaces, roughly, something like that. What do you do when there's not a space, and people want to park somewhere I can't find a space, I'm going to park over here. Is that going to be monitored? Is that going to be challenged? Or, well, I can't park in this space, but I can park over here?
Currently have any type of setup that would, you know, an app or something that would tell you if a park is full, and but we can look at those types of technologies for the future. It would be beneficial for here and other places.
Popular. It's really popular. More people go there. There's going to be a finite amount of spaces. At some point, people are going to start saying, well, just park over here on the side of the road or whatever. And we get back into that same problem. So I think there's got to be some thought on how we're going to police that or monitor that.
If I may, Commissioner.
Yeah.
We do have park rangers that are out there that do monitor the situation on a regular basis, and on those holiday times where we see a bigger surge, not only do we make sure that we have park rangers out there, but the Sheriff's Office also assists right now in making sure that there's some order and safety to it. So I would anticipate that when we have those higher utilizations, we'll still be leaning in on those in the meantime to make sure that there's order and public safety being addressed to help maintain, you know, folks' safety out there.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the work.
Mr. Wayne?
So I do agree, and Commissioner Mann, I apologize for interjecting. Don't take anything other than my enthusiasm. Wow. But I couldn't agree more with the amenity aspect. I couldn't agree more with what we need to do. I am not for any type of paid parking. I asked the question earlier what the cost is and what the maintenance is. The cost seems like we're going along and we're dealing with that. The maintenance we already take care of, and quite frankly, you could argue that there's more maintenance now and what the impacts of the beach on a long-term basis. You know, however, the other thing, and Chris alluded to it, what Sanibel did with Lee County's help is, so we had obviously offices on the beach, and we determined beach parking, and through the help of Lee County, we actually had signs as you come along Summerlin that would say beach parking full. So the same type of communication you can do if we have staff that's there, just determine that our parking, you know, so you have, as you can imagine with beaches, you have a peak and a valley of when that is. So we certainly tried to address that. Was it perfect? No, but it certainly gave people an indication that we're going to the beach, and that's what they hoped for. They paid $6, and all of a sudden they did the lop around Sanibel, and if you can imagine, Lighthouse to Turner, pretty far distance, especially when you're trying to find a parking spot. So there's ways of dealing with, I think, what Commissioner Sandelli did. You know, certainly Chris brought it up, and I think there's ways to mitigate that. But I am certainly, I think what you did was great. I appreciate the briefing yesterday, and I don't think we're anywhere near, and I agree with the commissioners, about paid parking. That's not necessary at all, and I'm just not even there. Even from a cost point of view, we have an additional cost. So, and if we do, I certainly think we have the capacity to do what we need to do to absorb that.
I have a question, something we didn't talk about, we talked about a year ago. A lot of people utilize this areas for putting jet skis in, because when Pontarass is full, there's no access there. Would there still be areas on one of the islands at one point where people could put in jet skis on the east side, I believe it is the island, or it's the west side of the island?
So currently, those are illegal launches right now. We do not, it's in the Parks and Rec ordinance that motorized vessels are not allowed to be launched off any type of beach. But if, you know, if the board is inclined in the future to.
I was just asking because I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if there was being allowed there or not. I know they're allowed to be in the past, but not in certain areas of the past, but I wasn't sure if they could be launched there or not.
So if you go a little bit further down past Island C, the first entrance to what appears to be some paid parking is a launch area where you can launch boats and jet skis. Certainly, that's where they seem to be launched. So that's the avenue. I don't think that, you know, it just becomes another issue. But currently, I agree with Chris. The rangers do a great job and the sheriffs do a great job. Just that when you go through that peak, sometimes you need to just make a phone call and say, we need another ranger, because the staff, as you can imagine, is not adequate when you have that many people with the popularity. And it's a popular area. The other thing that we have to take into consideration, people have been used to going there for the last couple of years. It's a great amenity. So now to actually charge parking would be a hardship that we're passing along to them, and I don't think that's necessary. Just another consideration. I know the commissioners mentioned that. I think it's great. We're all on the same page.
The other thing is, when you start talking about launching, whether it's a jet ski or something else, that exacerbates the parking issue.
Right.
Because now you have the car plus the trailers, and it's hard to get around. People trip over them, that kind of thing. People start moving trailers because they're trying to get into the car and so on and so forth. So I'm not against, I spend a lot of hours on jet skis and stuff like this, but there's an operational piece here that we're trying to get as many people as we can on the island without overloading it.
Yeah, under public input received, you had fish cleaning tables. They're always handy, especially if you don't have any. Are they, is that even realistic? Where would they go? Would you put them, hang them on the side of the bathrooms? You need running water? I mean, usually when you're cleaning your fish, you're on a dock and there's a bunch of pelicans and they're eating all the guts and whatnot. But is it realistic to talk about fish cleaning tables on these little islands?
Bear with me, Commissioner Mann. So I'm sorry I can't zoom in, but right at the end, down here, that would be a fish cleaning station. That would be the closest point to where the fishing usually takes place on Island A. And then if you go to Island B, same thing, a nice walking path down to it. Island B would actually have two. There would be one up here, as well as.
Running water?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Commissioner Mann, that's going to be where the wall is now. You turn your mic on, but that's where the wall is now that people fish off of. So that's going to be on that end down there. It'd be a covered.
So you throw the fish heads?
It'd be the deep part there by the bridge. It'd be deeper there too. So it's not like a beach area. It's the raised beach seawall there.
It makes sense the way we're already doing it?
It's not there in place now. This is just on the plans.
Somebody's dream and would be realistic.
Yes, sir.
Well, my head's up and down. Maybe not the first thing we do out there, but at some point, the public would be happy to see it.
That'd be nice to have that out there because we don't have that now, like Jesse said. I mean, it's on that corner where the wall is higher, the water is deeper, so people don't use it for beach. But yeah, we don't have that now. It'd be great. The fisherman's going to love that. Any other comments for Jesse before he wraps it up? Jesse, we have a completion date. I know some different dates been thrown out there, but do you have anything like for different areas, like for like the parking? Do you have it for the pavilions and different times, different phases? I know
Again, we have until June 30th of 2024.
Right.
to complete everything that's being in front of you today. We would do the construction as we have done phase one right now with the T-groins, a little bit at a time, open up what's finished, go to the next stretch of shoreline. So the main project for the upland amenities would do this, take the same path.
Anything else from us today? Long ago.
I do not.
Is there anything we could do from the board side to help expedite it as far as the timeline goes, or just all designing, permitting, and funding issues?
At this time, it's more of studies and getting to 30% plan set.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Roger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I've heard is consensus on the question that you want the traditional beach amenities, but not interested in paid parking. So we'll move along with all due haste and get about the business of design and costing this project out.
Mr. Mann?
This is almost like a commissioner item from this morning that I didn't do, but since Jesse's here, I want to thank him. He took me the other day out to GS10 project in Lehigh, where you guys have committed $26,000 for making that user-friendly. With the help of Lampstead, they have cleared a lot of exotics and have made it much more user-friendly already, and there are fishermen and fisherwomen walking around the edges of that. It looks beautiful. The water is as clear as comes out of your kitchen sink faucet. They're doing a superb job out there, and that's my main man in charge of that, and I just wanted to thank him very much. And we watched a lady catch a fish while we were out there. So it's my dream of that grandpa out there with his grandkids. It's already happening.
Yeah, it's a beautiful lake. Go out there during the rainy season. It's a little bit deeper, but it's crystal clear, like you said. It's nice facility. It's gonna be a great amenity for Lehigh. Anything else?
No, sir.
No? Okay, we'll adjourn then. Thank you.